Goat farming, often called goat ranching in places like the United States, offers real opportunity for people in the USA, UK, and across Europe right now in 2026. The demand for goat meat, known as chevon, keeps growing steadily, driven by multicultural communities in major cities, ethnic markets, and even mainstream interest in leaner, healthier red meat options. Goat milk and dairy products have their own niche, especially for artisan cheesemakers, soap producers, and people seeking alternatives to cow's milk. But the meat side usually proves easier and more profitable for most beginners. Many new farmers make the same mistake early on. They pour tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, pounds, or euros into elaborate barns, climate-controlled sheds, automatic feeders, and concrete floors, only to realize the animals themselves are what generate income. I have seen impressive-looking facilities in the American Midwest, rural parts of England, or northern France where the building cost far exceeded the value of the goats inside. Sometimes only a dozen animals use a huge space while the rest sits empty. The truth is, goats do not need luxury. What they truly require is basic protection: shade and good airflow during hot summers, dry shelter from rain, wind, and cold during wet winters, especially important in the UK, Ireland, Scandinavia, or northern US states. Clean, dry bedding to prevent foot rot and parasites, and enough space to move around naturally so they stay healthy and grow well. At the beginning, the smartest approach is to keep housing simple and inexpensive. A basic three-sided pole barn or open front shelter with a sloped metal or treated wood roof works perfectly in most climates. In wetter regions like the UK or Pacific Northwest of the US, use elevated slatted floors or well-drained gravel bases to reduce mud and parasite loads. Good ventilation is essential. Ammonia from urine builds up quickly in enclosed spaces and can cause respiratory issues, so leave openings high and low for natural airflow. Fencing must be escape-proof because goats are notorious climbers and chewers. Use 4 to 5 foot woven wire or cattle panels with an electrified top strand if needed. For 20 to 50 adult goats, you can usually build adequate shelter and fencing for $5,000 to $15,000 US, or 4,000 to 12,000 pounds, if you do some of the work yourself or buy used materials. Compare that to spending $50,000 plus on concrete and insulation right away. Money that could instead buy better breeding stock, feed reserves, or emergency vet funds. Space guidelines are straightforward. Each adult goat needs roughly 15 to 20 square feet of covered shelter space and at least 200 to 300 square feet of outdoor paddock or pasture per animal when rotationally grazed. In Europe and the UK, where winters are often wet and muddy, prioritize drainage and avoid overstocking to prevent hoof problems. In drier parts of the southern US or Mediterranean Europe, you can stretch pasture further with browse. Goats love weeds, brush, and woody plants. The goal is comfort and health, not extravagance. Extra space is always better if you can afford it, but minimums allow success when starting small. When deciding between meat and dairy, look honestly at your local market in 2026. Goat meat demand remains strong and is forecast to keep rising. In the United States, live goat prices average $3 to $4 per pound depending on weight, breed, and season, with higher premiums for halal or direct-to-consumer sales in cities like New York, Chicago, Atlanta, or Los Angeles. In the UK, prices in London, Birmingham, and Manchester ethnic markets often reach £4 to £6 per kilogram live weight or more. Across the EU, consumption is expected to grow around 2.6% annually through 2035, especially in France, Spain, Germany, and Italy. Dairy goats, Saanen, Alpine, Nubian, Toggenburg, produce 1 to 2 gallons per day during peak lactation, but daily milking, stricter hygiene regulations, pasteurization requirements, where raw milk sales are limited, and higher feed costs make it more labor-intensive. Meat-focused farming usually suits beginners better because it involves less daily routine, lower regulatory hurdles for selling live animals or carcasses, and faster cash flow from selling kids. For meat production, the top breeds in Western markets right now are Boer, Kiko, Savannah, and their crosses. Boer goats grow quickly and carry heavy muscling. Kiko goats are exceptionally hardy and parasite-resistant, making them ideal for pasture-based systems in rainy UK or Northern European conditions. A good meat doe typically costs $300 to $600, 250 to 500 pounds, while a quality breeding buck runs $500 to $1,500. These animals commonly produce twins or triplets, and doelings can breed as early as 8 to 12 months if well grown. Kids from strong meat lines usually reach market weight of 60 to 100 pounds in 6 to 9 months, allowing you to sell them quickly and turn over capital. Starting small is almost always the wisest path. Begin with 5 to 10 good does and 1 buck, or use AI/leased buck service to save money initially. Many farmers in the US, UK, and Europe started exactly this way, on a backyard, small rented plot, or community land, and grew to 50 to 100 plus head within 3 to 5 years by reinvesting kid sale profits. One strong doe producing 4 to 6 kids over 12 to 18 months can easily return her purchase price plus profit when sold at market weights. Compare that to a dairy doe. Higher upfront cost, daily milking commitment, and more feed, with profit depending heavily on finding consistent cheese or direct milk buyers. Feeding keeps costs down when done right. Goats thrive on pasture and browse. Turn them loose on weeds, blackberry bushes, multiflora rows, or underutilized land to clear it naturally while eating cheaply. In winter or dry seasons, provide good hay, haylage, or limited silage. Always offer a free choice mineral mix formulated for goats. Copper is especially important. Cow minerals can be toxic. Avoid overfeeding grain. Too much leads to obesity, acidosis, and lower profits. In most temperate climates, one well-managed acre of mixed pasture and brush can support 5 to 10 goats with rotational grazing and supplemental hay. Health management matters more than fancy equipment. Work with a local veterinarian familiar with small ruminants. Core vaccinations usually include C, D, and T, clostridial diseases, and sometimes others depending on your region. Check USDA, DEFRA, or EU guidelines. Deworm strategically. Test fecal samples rather than blanket treating every 3 months to slow resistance. Trim hooves regularly. Keep shelter dry and quarantine new animals. Plan kidding for milder seasons, spring or fall in northern areas, to reduce cold-wet stress on newborns. Marketing is straightforward once you have animals ready. Sell live to ethnic butchers, at farmers markets, through Facebook groups, Craigslist, or local livestock auctions. Direct-to-consumer sales often bring the best prices. Many buyers pay premiums for farm-raised, hormone-free, or halal goats. Byproducts like composted manure can be sold to gardeners or small farms. In the UK and parts of Europe, some producers supply halal slaughterhouses or specialty butchers directly. The biggest advantage of goat farming is accessibility. You need less land and capital than cattle or sheep in many cases. Turnaround is quick, kids sell in under a year, and demand is growing rather than shrinking. Start simple. Learn from experience. Focus spending on healthy animals and smart feeding rather than buildings, and scale gradually. Research your local zoning, animal welfare rules, and meat/milk sales regulations before buying your first goats. Extension services. USDA Cooperative Extension in the US, AHDB in the UK, or equivalent ag offices in EU countries offer free advice and sometimes cost-share programs. If you approach it patiently and practically, goat farming can become a solid, rewarding business. Many people have turned small beginnings into full-time income this way. Focus on the animals, keep learning, and the results will follow. If you have specific questions about breeds, local markets, or startup steps in your area, feel free to ask. Take care.